under federal investigation. How Rutgers Law Center used taxpayer funds to platform extremism, written by Dr. Jai G. Bunsell. Congressional committees are probing Rutgers University's Center for Security, Race, and Rights after repeated complaints of anti-Semitic programming and extremist affiliations. The investigation raises fundamental questions about governance, vetting, and whether public universities can ensure neutrality while accepting taxpayer funds and external sponsorships. When Rutgers University founded the Center for Security, Race, and Rights, CSRR, in 2018, it described the new institute as a hub for critical scholarship on discrimination and civil liberties. Its stated goal: exploring how national security policy intersects with race, religion, and civil rights, was admirable. Yet, within a few years, this publicly funded law school center would become the focus of a bipartisan congressional investigation and a national controversy over anti-Semitism, academic neutrality, and the use of taxpayer money. The question now confronting New Jersey's flagship university is larger than one center. How can a publicly funded institution allow a unit accused of legitimizing extremism and promoting one-sided political agendas to operate under its banner? Nexus with U.S.-designated terrorist group, the defining controversy erupted on September 11, 2021, the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people. CSRR co-hosted an online panel titled Whose Narrative? 20 Years Since September 11, 2001. Among its speakers was Dr. Sami Al-Arian, a former University of South Florida professor who in 2006 pleaded guilty to conspiring to provide services to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a U.S.-designated terrorist organization. The symbolism of hosting a convicted terror supporter on the anniversary of 9/11 drew immediate condemnation. Families of victims called it academic amnesia. The outrage reached Washington. On March 27, 2024, the U.S. House Committee on Education and the Workforce, chaired by Representative Virginia Foxx, Republican North Carolina, launched an investigation into Rutgers. Her letter to University President Jonathan Holloway left little ambiguity. Rutgers Newark Center for Security, Race, and Rights, CSRR, has become notorious as a hotbed of radical anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-Israel, and pro-terrorist activity. CSRR's director, Sahar Aziz, and numerous CSRR fellows and faculty affiliates have records of virulent anti-Semitism and support for terrorism. Fox also highlighted that notoriously anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas Columbia professor of modern-era politics, Joseph Massid, is a CSRR Distinguished Senior Fellow and faculty affiliate. She continued, Rutgers stands out for the intensity and pervasiveness of anti-Semitism on its campuses. Rutgers senior administrators, faculty, staff, academic departments and centers, and student organizations have contributed to the development of a pervasive climate of anti-Semitism. A companion Senate Judiciary Committee release, issued on February 7, 2024, under Senator Lindsey Graham, accused Rutgers of housing a center that sponsors events featuring anti-Semitic speakers, individuals who justify violence against the state of Israel, terrorist sympathizers, and advocates of domestic radicalism. A subsequent Senate update on April 4, 2024, confirmed that both chambers were coordinating investigations. Rutgers administration defended the event as an exercise in academic freedom. However, the question lingers. How could a taxpayer-funded university condone such incidents? Mastermind behind the controversy at the core of the congressional investigation is Professor Sahar Aziz, the Egypt-born founder and director of CSRR. Aziz is the author of The Racial Muslim, When Racism Quashes Religious Freedom, which accuses U.S. counterterrorism policy of racializing Muslim identity and framing faith as a national security threat. In 2021, Aziz was selected as a Soros Equality Fellow by the Open Society Foundations, an organization criticized for supporting radical movements and regime change initiatives against certain sovereign governments. Her supporters credit her with broadening civil rights discourse. However, CSRR's event archive suggests a different orientation. one in which her academic platform serves as a vehicle for political activism presented as scholarship. Congressional critics describe this as an echo chamber of radical and anti-Israel discourse funded by the public. CSRR's director, Sahar Aziz, and numerous CSRR fellows and faculty affiliates have records of virulent antisemitism and support for terrorism. The center's networks reinforce that perception. CSRR has engaged figures from Democracy for the Arab World Now, Dawn, whose 2024 annual report, Challenging Impunity, denounces Western governments and U.S. allies in the Middle East. For members of Congress, such ties blur the boundary between scholarship and advocacy. Political activism at taxpayers' cost Rutgers receives more than $1 billion annually in New Jersey state appropriations. That dependence on taxpayer funding gives the public a stake in its behavior. Clearly, publicly funded universities have a special obligation to ensure that their classrooms and centers are never used to target any community or to legitimize terrorism in any form. Yet, oversight appears practically non-existent. Under Aziz's leadership, CSRR has operated with little visible oversight, allowing programming choices to reflect her personal ideological leanings. The press release from Senator Lindsey Graham's office highlighted this pattern. Only 3 days after the brutal October 7th massacre, the center hosted an event titled Psychoanalysis Under Occupation, Practicing Resistance in Palestine. Center faculty affiliate Dr. Laura Sheehy opened by declaring that Zionist settler colonialism is a structure that is the provocation. 2 months later, CSRR hosted another event, The West, Israel, and Settler Colonization of Palestine, featuring Professor Joseph Massid, the Columbia University academic who lauded the October 7th attacks as awesome scenes and celebrated the capture of some of Israel's colonial soldiers and officers in their underwear while sleeping. These choices were not incidental. They reflect deliberate curation by the center's leadership. Rutgers has not explained why its law school allowed such speakers to be platformed under its name, or whether any internal review was conducted before or after these events. When a publicly funded university permits such one-sided programming without oversight, it effectively subsidizes political activism under the banner of academia. Company they keep if programming decisions reflect ideological loyalty. The university's sponsorship policies reveal an equally troubling disregard for ethics. Among CSRR's publicly listed sponsors is Lloyd and Musili LLP, a Houston-based law firm prominently featured on the center's website. In September 2025, ABC 13 Houston reported that the firm's co-founder, Faraz Musili, had been arrested at Houston's airport on charges of sexual performance by a child after allegedly arranging to meet a 16-year-old through a dating app. The case remains before the courts, but its implications for Rutgers are profound. There is no public record suggesting that CSRR or Rutgers Law School reviewed the sponsorship after the arrest or evaluated whether the firm's continued association with a state university was appropriate. As of October 2025, Lloyd and Musili still appears on the CSRR website under the Supporters and Sponsors section. That silence raises many uncomfortable questions. Was the sponsorship ever vetted for ethical or reputational risks? Did Rutgers have a due diligence mechanism to screen donors or partners before public acknowledgement? Why has no public statement been issued, despite the serious nature of the allegations? For a state-funded institution, such complacency is not a private matter. It is a breach of public trust. The pattern underscores a deeper structural problem. Rutgers' unwillingness to apply consistent ethical scrutiny to its publicly funded centers. Double standards on campus. Rutgers' disciplinary record reveals a striking inconsistency in how the university responds to alleged racial discrimination. In 2017, Rutgers swiftly punished Professor Michael Chikindas, a microbiologist who had posted anti-Semitic memes and Holocaust jokes on Facebook. The university condemned his behavior as abhorrent to our community, removed him from required courses, and publicly affirmed its zero tolerance for anti-Semitism. Yet when CSRR director Sahar Aziz and her affiliates were accused in 2024 by congressional investigators of advancing radical anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-Israel, and pro-terrorist activity, Rutgers responded not with an internal review, but by invoking academic freedom. Both cases involved public allegations of antisemitism. In one, Rutgers moved decisively. In the other, it remained silent. For critics, the message is unmistakable. Rutgers condemns antisemitism depending on who is accused. This inconsistency is not just academic. It strikes at the heart of institutional integrity. Call for action congressional oversight has made one fact unavoidable. Public universities cannot afford opacity. Rutgers must now adopt reforms that ensure transparency and neutrality across all centers of research and advocacy, beginning with CSRR. Comprehensive federal review. Request that the Departments of Justice and Education jointly review CSRR's affiliations, sponsors, and leadership to ensure compliance with U.S. law and university ethics standards. Independent Oversight Board. Establish an external oversight body composed solely of compliance professionals, ethics experts, and community representatives, excluding active academic faculty, to conduct annual audits of governance, funding, and programming. This exclusion is essential, as universities have repeatedly demonstrated an inability to hold their own colleagues accountable. Mandatory vetting procedures require rigorous background and ethics screening for all sponsors, speakers, and partner organizations. Any entity or individual facing criminal or reputational scrutiny should be suspended pending review. Balanced programming mandate. Mandate that publicly funded centers present diverse viewpoints on religion, national security, and foreign policy, ensuring that academic freedom does not become a cover for ideological partisanship. Transparency and training. Require annual public reports detailing funding sources, event themes, and compliance reviews, along with mandatory ethics and accountability training for all directors of publicly funded centers. Closing remarks. The facts speak for themselves. CSRR invited a man convicted of aiding a terrorist organization to talk about the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It continues to list a law firm as a sponsor, even though its co-founder faces serious criminal charges. Congress has accused the center of radical anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-Israel, and pro-terrorist activity. Yet Rutgers has offered no public explanation. Invoking academic freedom can no longer serve as a shield for negligence. Rutgers must face a thorough investigation by state and federal authorities, followed by independent oversight of its centers and leadership. A university sustained by public funds owes the public transparency, not deflection. If Rutgers cannot uphold neutrality and ethics, it forfeits the legitimacy that academic freedom was meant to defend.